Let's recap our latest head-to-head categories mock draft here on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Thursday, February 3rd. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White, and this is a very unique format where you can go in many different directions. But Scott, what is your general approach in head-to-head categories, and did you accomplish that in this most recent mock draft?
So my general approach is I think the simplest way to put it is to get the maximum impact from every lineup spot. It's easy to compare this to Roto, which I have more experience in. But Roto, you start 23 total players. In this format, 18 and only 10 hitters. So, when you're looking for that balance of categories, you have fewer opportunities to do it. You can't afford these diversions into, I'm going to get a steal specialist, because if you're dedicating 1 of 10 spots to that, you're going to cost yourself too much in the other categories. So if I do have to shortchange myself in a category, that category would be stolen bases, because it has no connection to the other categories, really. I want my hitters, when I talk about maximum impact, I'm thinking most specifically with home runs, because if you have a lineup full of guys who hit 30 plus homers, most of the time you're going to win that category, and you may win RBI as well, and you may win runs as well, because obviously an RBI and a run is happening on every home run. So I think those are the biggest points for me, is just make sure your hitter spots are high impact guys. Make sure you're not shortchanging yourself in home runs, because it's okay to overkill it in that category in this format. Because remember, you're being scored week to week. You want to make sure you want to make sure what you're most invested in is something you can actually rely on from week to week. And I think home runs are the best bet as far as that goes.
Yeah, and we know, watching baseball and following it year in and year out, there's a lot of variance week over week. So you want to have as many of those home run hitters, those sluggers, as you possibly can. Well, let's look at what you actually did in this draft, Scott. And you went hitter heavy early on. And for those that listened last year, they might be checking in and they're saying, well, what's going on, man? Scott, you've completely switched it up. You took 6 hitters in your first 7 picks. That included Vladimir Guerrero, Luis Robert, Cedric Mullins, Salvador Perez, Jose Altuve, and Adalberto Mondesi. What made you go with this strategy, and do you like the way that it turned out?
So partly it was experimental, because it was a mock. Partly it was just because that's the way the picks unfolded. And I didn't go in specifically thinking, I'm going to get a bunch of hitters and shortchange my pitching staff. I just think it began with Luis Robert lasting to the end of round 2. I thought that was a good value. I wanted to see how it turned out if I forewent a high-end pitcher there. And then with every successive pick, it just seemed like there was a hitter who gave me that kind of impact I was looking for in my lineup when there were a lot of redundancies at pitcher still. So, yeah, clearly, I mentioned at the top that if I'm gonna ignore a category, it's going to be stolen bases. Clearly, that didn't happen between Luis Robert, Cedric Mullins, and especially Adalberto Mondesi. And look, I think Mondesi, this is his format, because the total number of steals over a full season in Roto, maybe you worry about the injury risk, but when you're talking about week by week, maybe he'll miss half those weeks with injuries, but the weeks he's available, he's going to single-handedly win you that category. He's the volume is so far that he provides, and that is so far ahead of everybody else, that you never have to worry about him falling short in a given week. So getting him in round 7, I feel like you have to do it. I feel like you have to, and just take the wins he gives you for however long he's available. I might have not taken Cedric Mullins in round 3 if I knew I was going to get Mondesi in round 7, but you obviously don't know what's going to happen.
For those listening or watching, they might be wondering, well, Scott, what happened to your pitching? What did it turn out looking like? And I don't know. Let's see. Charlie Morton in the 6th round, Justin Verlander in the 8th, Ranger Suarez in the 11th, Chris Bassett in the 12th, and then Adam Wainwright, Luis Garcia, Aaron Savale, Zach Greinke, and Kyle Hendricks in the mid to later rounds. It's not sexy, Scott, but you wind up with a lot of volume with these starting pitchers.
And I wish I had a higher end guy there to slot either ahead of Charlie Morton or in between Morton and Verlander. Otherwise, I wouldn't change much. But yeah, I specifically targeted older guys who I knew are going to give me volume. I didn't have to worry about teams playing games with their availability. And, at the very least, if they're pitching, they're going to help in strikeouts, right? That gets overlooked when you look at these amazing strikeout pitchers for the younger, these amazing strikeout rates for the younger pitchers. If they're only going 4 2/3 innings at a time, the number of strikeouts they're giving you aren't going to be so different from what an Adam Wainwright gives you. And in the case of Greinke and Hendricks, I mean, we considered them high-end pitchers just a year ago. So I think people are selling their bounce back potential short.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.